Welcome to Weekend Crafting Adventures with Kim Wojtalowicz. Get ready to learn all about her latest craft project as she reveals experiences with the Cricut cutting machine. Follow along as she discusses her project's successes and fails, shares her inspiration, tips and tricks, and overall satisfaction rating for each project. Now, here's your host, Kim.
Hi, crafties, and welcome to Weekend Crafting Adventures. I'm Kim, and I am going to share with you today how I used my Cricut Maker to help me create an amazing bullet journal. The inspiration behind this crafting project was basically just to get me organize my life. Find a better way than what I've been doing in the past to create a journal, a list, a calendar, a planner, combine all of those things with my ideas in a functional format that I could use on a daily basis throughout the year. So as I did a little more research on bullet journaling, or as I've heard it nicknamed, Bujo, as I was exploring and learning about the process of bullet journaling and what it was all about, I did learn that the person that created this method, his name is Ryder Carroll, and he developed this method that he created called bullet journaling in the late 1990s. And what really got me interested in this way of keeping track of everything in my life was that it was a combination between a calendar, a planner, a journal, and it is also a creative way to keep track of all things in your life. Something that really excited me about starting this project was the idea that I could create a personal organizer that just was customized to what I needed and my life. And two of the resources that I use to really help guide me in deciding what I want to be part of this bullet journal and how to go ahead and get started with it were two different websites. I looked a lot at the Good Housekeeping website that just was called What is a Bullet Journal? That gave me some basic background and information, really a quick read on what I was going to be getting into and what this bullet journaling was all about. And the other website that I found really helpful in guiding me was called littlecoffeefox.com. So those are two you can check out. There are tons of different resources and places you can go to find information on bullet journaling. I'm just letting you know the two that I looked at that really helped guide me. A couple of the important materials that you need for making a bullet journal. I'm sure there's lots of other ones, but the main ones that I used for my Cricut, I used permanent vinyl, I used white sticker paper, and my Cricut fine point pens. Those were all part of what I was going to use to help make my bullet journal and to get crafty with it. And then, of course, I needed a ruler. I needed a bullet journal. And the bullet journal that I chose, there's lots of different options out there. And I just chose one that I felt like met my personal style for how I like to create things, and also what I felt like was going to work for me best to make this bullet journal functional for me. I, of course, wanted it to be bright and colorful and fun and creative, but I also really, really wanted to make sure it was something that was going to be useful for me to use day in and day out. So I chose a dot grid bullet journal. And I also chose one that has 120 GSM thick paper. And when I was looking into the different kinds of journals that you could buy to create your bullet journal, I did read a lot about the thickness of the paper was important, because if you're going to use any kind of marker, brush marker, things like that to enhance and decorate your bullet journal, you don't want those markers to bleed through those pages. So I chose that. I actually got a pack of 2 bullet journals on Amazon for like $16. So these were pretty big journals with about 320 pages per journal. So I felt like that was a really good deal. The other really important material that I tried for the first time during this project was using Glad press and seal to attach my permanent vinyl into my bullet journal. And I'll share with you a little bit more about that in the experience of making this bullet journal with the help of my Cricut maker. But the first thing I needed to do was decide how I wanted to organize and set up my bullet journal. And again, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. And the biggest thing I just kept thinking about was, what is going to work best for me, for my style? What do I need to have in front of me every day that is going to help me organize my life and keep track of everything that I've got going on? And so I am going to tell you a little bit about the different parts of this bullet journal that I chose to put in mine. I decided to start my bullet journal with an index, and that is pretty standard. I mean, everything I've read, and most people are putting an index in their bullet journal. And I went ahead and did this as well, because I was going to have a lot of different pages that were around my weekly and daily calendar, but I also was going to add some things in the back of the bullet journal. And so what that index is going to help me do is really quick look at whatever topic or whatever piece of the bullet journal I want to get to fast and have its page number right there. So I did start my bullet journal with a 2-page index. The next piece of the structure and setting up of the journal that I chose to do was to do a future log. And what my future log consisted of was 4 pages of my journal. I had 2 pages with 3 months on each page, kind of a vertical column for each month, where I had the days of the week and the dates of the month. And then underneath that, I left an area for important appointments or important things that were happening in that month and birthday lists. That was going to be what my future log consisted of. So because I was going to start my journal in August, I had August, September, and October on one page, November, December, January on the next page, and so on. So that is my future log. After the future log, I decided that I was going to combine a monthly little look at the month with the weekly and the daily log and list. That is just what I chose to do for me, because what I need in my life is not only to see that quick snapshot of the month, but the layout of the week And then each day with specifically my plan and my calendar of what was happening in each of those days. I also decided that I wanted to add a few extra boxes and rectangles that I was going to place on those weekly and daily spreads that were specific to me, to my life. And the things that I chose to add on to that weekly look were a grid with every day of the week and the dinner meal that I was going to be doing for that week. So my husband and I take turns. I cook one week the meals, he cooks the next week. But I really find it helpful for me to have that right there on my weekly plan of these are the meals that we're doing each night. I also chose to include a rectangle at the bottom that was actually going to be where I put what podcast was publishing that week. That way, when I turn to that week, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is when this podcast is publishing. That was something I included. I included a vertical rectangle that was going to be my to-do list. I am always keeping sticky notes all over the place of what I need to do and then throwing them away or crossing them off. So I decided on each weekly spread of my bullet journal, I wanted to have a to-do list with plenty of room to put things in and cross them off. And then the two other things that I chose to put on there were about inspiration. Two different ways of having a little bit of inspiration and pick me up on those pages. One was going to be a one-word inspiration, and the other was going to be a little bit longer saying or quote or something that would make me laugh or make me smile that I actually was going to put on throughout the journal. So that way, when I would turn the page for the next week, I would have a little bit of inspiration staring me in the face. And then the last piece and part of my bullet journal was going to be something called collections. And collections are things that are personal to you, that you want to keep track of, different kinds of logs and different kinds of things that just really you want to have and be able to add to or look at in your bullet journal. A few examples that I have in my bullet journal are things like a gratitude log. That's something that I just started doing this year that I feel like has really kind of been fun, is to keep a gratitude log. That is one of my collections. I have one of my collections that is titled The World Was Hers for the Reading. And in that collection, I keep not only the books that I am reading all year. And when I say reading, I mean listening to these books. My Libby app is one of my best friends, and where I keep all of my books that I'm reading, I listen to them all the time. So the books that I'm reading, but also books that I hear about. So many times I'll be out and about at work or with friends, and they'll be talking about a great read. And again, normally it would be a sticky note, but with my bullet journal, I have a dedicated place to put all of the books that I want to read and all of the books that I've read. A couple of other things that are part of my collections are just things that I want to binge watch, different shows that I've heard about on different channels. I have a collection for recipes, like a recipe bank. If I come across or hear about a recipe that I want to try, I'll go ahead and write that information down in in that collection, and just a few others that are pretty specific to just things that I like to keep track of, different fun memories or places that I want to go, or crafting projects that I want to do, sewing projects that I can't wait to start. So those are what my collections are about, but really that's the time and place for you to decide what you want to log and keep track of. Moving into the experience of making this bullet journal, the first thing I did was I had Cricut cut out of permanent vinyl my page numbers. So that was something that I decided that I wanted to do. There are bullet journals that come with page numbers already in them. So if you choose one of those, this is a step that you don't need to do. But because mine did not come with page numbers on it, I wanted to make sure that I added that into my bullet journal. So I created those with permanent vinyl, and then I went ahead and attached each of those numbers to the pages. That took a bit of time. And the next thing that I did was to start to create that future log. And in making that future log, remember, this is the one with 3 months vertically on a page right after the index of my bullet journal. I used permanent vinyl in lots of different colors, and I used the abbreviations for each month. And I was going to have those at the top of the column would be the abbreviation of the month. And then under that, I did a little white sticker paper using my Cricut and my fine point Cricut pens. I had Cricut not only do the days of the week in a tiny little sticker, but then also that quick little snapshot of the numbers in the month, just how the month looks on a calendar, basically, but on a tiny little sticker paper with Cricut writing those out. And in putting that permanent vinyl onto my bullet journal pages, something that really quickly struck me was that the transfer paper tape, that carrier paper that you use with permanent vinyl, was really way too sticky for this project. What kept happening to me was that I would get the vinyl and I would go ahead and get it onto the page where I wanted it placed. And when I would peel up that sticky carrier paper tape, little pieces of my page, little pieces of my bullet journal were coming up too. And I really was like, oh, I don't want to ruin my pages, and I don't like the way it looked with little pieces being pulled up. So I went back to the internet and I found a really cool hack and tip that I'm going to share with you. I took some Glad press and seal, and I used that instead of that really sticky transfer paper and tape. That sticky transfer paper and tape is great for many different projects, but not so great when you're attaching that vinyl to the paper. So this press and seal, this worked awesome. It took me a little while to kind of get that vinyl to stick to the press and seal, but once I'd done it a couple of times, it really became a really simple process, and the press and seal did not pick up any of those bullet journal pages or pieces of the page. Creating my weekly and daily spreads all together, this took the longest when I was making the bullet journal. I had my Cricut cut out about a, let's say, 2-inch by 1.5-inch rectangle on white sticker paper using my Cricut fine point pens that is the month, that quick little monthly look that I wanted to have on every page on every weekly spread. And I had Cricut write the year and then the name of the month, and then again, the numbers, the dates of the month, just the way it would look on a calendar, but it was really tiny and it was going to go up into the corner of that weekly spread. And so if you can think about that, that's like 4 or 5 of those little stickers per month, because I wanted one on every single weekly spread. So I know what week was behind me, what week is coming up, and all of the dates. That was something for my own personal organization that I chose to put on there. So I had Cricut print all of those out, and I went through and I put that sticker paper with that little monthly glance right on every single weekly spread. After that, I had to take my ruler and my fine point pens and go through and structure each of those squares and those rectangles that were going to be that shell for what I was going to fill in and use as my weekly and daily planner and calendar. So if you can imagine, I'm going from about page 5, like right after that future look in my journal, all the way past 100 to create these weekly/daily spreads that I was going to use as my organizational planner for this year. So that really took some time. It took time to figure out exactly where I wanted to put the lines and set it up. But having those dots, that dot grid, as the background for my journal pages was awesome, because all I needed to do was use my ruler and get in there. And once I had that structure down, I just went through and did that structure to the entire journal to cover an entire year. And then the final piece of my bullet journal were going to be those collections that I talked about. And I had Cricut cut out all of the names, themes, titles of those collection pages with permanent vinyl. So that was pretty fun, because depending on what the collection was, I chose a certain color of vinyl, a certain font. Sometimes I put the title straight across the top of the page. Sometimes I did it in an arc. It all just depended on my mood and what the collection was and how I was going to place the information in it as the year progressed. So that was really fun. So the next piece is the decorating. I have the structure. I have all of my weekly pages set up. Now I'm going to go in with my fun colored markers and different color flare pens and put in those one word inspirations and those, small little quotes. And some of those one word inspirations, to give you an example, a couple of them that I have in my bullet journal are like, balance, breathe, grow, those kinds of things that I just wanted to have staring me in the face when I turned to that next week. And then one of the examples of the inspirational or fun quotes that I found that I wanted to put in was riding alone in the car, singing loudly to music is good for the soul. So just kind of fun little inspirational quotes. And those were going to go on each of the weekly spreads as well. And depending on what the quote was or the word was, I chose different ways to decorate those with different color pens. I also used a ton of stickers in this project. I bought the stickers because I found some that were really fun, different themes like mom life or vacation, just different theme packs of stickers. But if you have a Cricut and you make stickers, you absolutely could be decorating your bullet journal with your personalized stickers that you're making with your Cricut machine. Another one of the materials that I don't think I mentioned at the start is washi tape. I have never really used washi tape in a lot of the crafting projects that I've done, but I really enjoyed putting washi tape as an accent and a little bit of color throughout my bullet journal. And what I chose to do was every month at the top of the bullet journal on that page, every month had a different color and kind of decorative washi tape. So all of August was one color and decorative washi tape, and then all of September was another. And not only does it look great, but it also kind of gives you a secondary index that you know where your monthly, weekly spreads are. And that was really fun using that washi tape. During the research of kind of learning about bullet journals, I kept reading about the symbol system that was put in place or that a lot of people use just to represent different things. And I think that that is such an interesting way to organize things in your bullet journal. I did not choose to use that particular symbol system. I just know myself well enough that I have my own way of keeping track of what's done, what needs to be done, what I've started, what I've finished, those kinds of things. So my symbol system is just personal to my own way of keeping track of things. And I have been using my bullet journal since August, since I went back to school. And I have found that I am really liking the style and the way that my weekly and my daily kind of planner calendar is set up. It is working well, not only for me to keep track of everything in my personal life with my family and appointments and things like that, but it also is working really well for me at work. I'm able to fit in all of the things that I'm doing throughout the week. And so that has been really fun. The one piece that I haven't really been using as much as I thought I would and as much as I would like to are the collections. I think one piece is that I'm just super busy. And so getting through the day and then getting home and being with the family and everything that comes with just life, I haven't really had the time that I want to focus in on those collections and keep track. It's definitely a goal of mine that I'm going to continue to work on. And with that being said, my goal is to use this bullet journal the entire year, all the way through to the end of next July, and decide, do I want to do this again? What do I want to create? Are there things that I would add to it? Things that I would change? What collections did I actually really embrace and keep track of and journal in? So that is something that I'm thinking about as I use my bullet journal throughout the school year. My crafting keepers for this episode. So I have a couple crafting keepers. Definitely the Glad press and seal. That was a great tip, and it worked well for me. It wasn't as sticky as the regular carrier sticky tape and paper that I've used to attach permanent vinyl to projects. It worked great on paper. So that I will definitely be keeping in my crafting corner. The other thing is the washi tape. That is a super fun way to bring color and decorative accent into a crafting project. So that is definitely fun. And the third crafting keeper are those one word inspirations that I have on my weekly spreads in my bullet journal. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy turning the page and looking at that one word and having it kind of either ground me or inspire me or make me laugh, depending on what it was. So I'm going to keep those one word inspirations in my crafting corner as well. And that brings me to my Satiscrafttion rating for this project. I'm going to give my bullet journal project a Satiscrafttion rating of 3.5. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I love my bullet journal and I loved putting it together to specifically match my lifestyle and my way of organizing myself, personalizing it to every single thing that I need to help me get through the days and the weeks. So that piece is awesome. I love that I can continue to add to it. I can continue to add collections and lists and logs as I go throughout the year. That's something that I really am enjoying about it. But I'll tell you what kind of kept it from being a 4 or 5. Two things. One is that it took a long time to get the structure and the base of my bullet journal in place. Just getting all of those numbers on the pages, using my ruler and my fine point markers to go through and set up what I wanted each week to look like for me, that took a long time. So that definitely kept it from being a higher rating. And the other thing is that I'm not really using the collections as much as I would like to. I'm kind of like, I got to use those collections more, and I've got to build time into my busy life to journal and think about that gratitude and think about all of those things that I had high hopes of regularly journaling about. That hasn't happened. So those kept it a little bit of a lower Satiscrafttion rating for me. So that's it for this episode. It was a fun Cricut project, and until our next adventure, take care.
That's all for this episode of Weekend Crafting Adventures. Now go get that Cricut machine off the shelf and get crafty. For more information on this crafting project, interesting tips, tricks, and techniques, visit WCApodcast.com. Until next time, when we embark on another adventure.